Well, I came from a background where I went to a liberal arts college where the values of liberal education were highly valued, and certainly communication was one of those. And although I'm in the sciences, I know that when you go out into the workplace, you've got to communicate effectively. So it's a hugely important thing for people to be able to do. And anything that will help it is good. The initial grant that created CxC, that came from Gordon Kane, whose name appears a number of places around our campus because he has been a major contributor to a number of different initiatives on campus. And he was particularly interested in communication for engineering students. He was an engineering major here. But I think some of the early decisions that were made about what sort of program it would be were particularly important ones. Notably that it would be very inclusive of majors all around the campus and not exclusive. A lot of communications programs, I think, tend to be aimed at people like communication studies programs or mass communication programs or English programs, but CxC didn't become that. And I think some of the early decisions included, first of all, including not just written and spoken communication, but also visual and technological. And that broadened the scope and the appeal to a lot more people on campus. So having the faculty workshops that happened every summer, I think went a long way to helping more people across campus develop an enthusiasm for this, and also be able comfortably to put together communications intensive courses and evaluate them appropriately. And those were very helpful in the early years, and I assume still are, in getting lots of people across campus to be involved. And throughout all this, the standards were kept very high, and that was important but also it attracted more faculty because they knew they were getting into something that was a really high quality program.
Some places had tried communication across the curriculum on a much smaller scale. A lot of places had tried writing across the curriculum. But in many instances, people who cared about it a lot had to go out and get people to come along with them on that mission to improve communication skills. I really didn't experience that at all when I came to LSU. I went around to departments and colleges, and people understood that their students needed communication skills. They also understood that a single class they took somewhere, such as in the English department or comm studies, might not be enough to really give the students all of the experience they need to be good communicators in the 21st century. And so I had all kinds of people in every discipline who were on board almost from the get-go.
So one of the courses I teach every spring semester is biological oceanography, which is a 4,000 level course. We're certified to do some exercises so they can prepare these educational flyers for different target groups. So it can be fishermen, it can be kindergarten kids in the public or high school, or any target group you can think of. They have to choose a coastal issue and prepare an educational flyer. And it's back and forth, and it's beautiful visual templates that they use to educate people. So that turned into, and it's difficult because you have to keep it simple, and to make it simple sometimes it's harder than make it sound complicated. So they are challenged in a way that probably they didn't think of it, how knowledge can be transferred in a simple way before.
We know today how important the ability to communicate is in the marketplace, and we hear that routinely from the employers with whom we work and who are the consumers of our students, our graduates. And repeatedly they emphasize they can train whatever the specific skill set is in the workplace. What they need are people who can think critically and who are capable of communicating. And of course, the brilliance of the CxC program is that it focuses on multiple modes of communication. So they're helping students to be able to write clearly, to be able to use technology to communicate clearly. So there are multiple ways that they're strengthening students and their ability to connect to that marketplace of ideas and the success in the marketplace itself.
My favorite thing about the CxC program has to be the people. I think that everyone I've interacted with in the program has just been so helpful and so supportive and really passionate about what they're doing with the program, and always willing to go the extra mile to make sure that like what I need, the skills I need to develop, they come into play. I can think of my early days in CxC. I remember when I went to my first CxC workshop, it was email etiquette. And then I went to one, I think 2 weeks later, that was elevator speeches. That was my freshman year, and I think that those two skills are something that as a college student, professors expect you to know, but no one ever took the time to teach you. And so I think that, you know, just those two experiences set me up so well for everything I've done in college, because, you know, I am involved in CxC, I'm involved in a number of other organizations as well, and finding out how to effectively communicate with adults, with people who, you know, don't know text lingo or something, learning how to write a form email so that you're not staring at a computer screen for 45 minutes panicking, and learning kind of how to sell yourself in an interview or anything like that. That's just something that within CxC and in the LSU community I've been able to use time and time again. What CxC provided me was confidence in what I was able to do, and background in things that I didn't know much about. And so I think that confidence is key in so many areas of the college experience, that without CxC and without that confidence, I might not have had the, you know, the bravery to turn in this research paper and see if I could get a classmate out of it, or to email a professor when I had questions. I think that a lot of times my friends that aren't in the CxC program, I see them doing that. I see them not going to office hours because they don't know how to communicate with a professor, or not emailing a professor because they don't want to sound like an idiot, and they don't necessarily know how to write a good email. And so I think that what CxC gave me was confidence. I know I keep repeating that word, but I think that it is so important when you enter into a campus like LSU and there's so many opportunities, but you don't necessarily know how to reach out and take them. So I think that without CxC, maybe I wouldn't have taken as many opportunities to grow as a student and as a person here on LSU's campus.
The thing that has been the most awesome about CxC has been the communication studio in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, Studio 151. I was there at the beginning, and before we had Studio 151, you might have seen me traveling across this quad with something that looked like a hot dog cart full of little laptop computers and cameras that Jim Catano and I had gotten with a tech fee grant, and consequently had to take care of and update and teach ourselves how to do things and teach students how to do things. There was no lab support for video. And, you know, I liken it when I talk to people about this. I say, you know, if you're teaching a writing class, you don't have to teach the students how to type. But we did. Realizing that, you know, the studios are not just about learning how to use technology. It's about how to integrate technology. It's about a lot of things, but how to integrate technology with your learning. But to me, it's just extraordinary that we have a laboratory where students can try stuff. And I mean, it's just evolved into a space that's so central to FMA. but it's wonderful.
There's communication across the curriculum, and then there's communication in the disciplines. And those are two very different approaches to building a program like the one we have. And we really value communication in the disciplines. I thought it was really important if we wanted to get engagement from people in the sciences and in engineering and in art and design and in veterinary medicine, wherever, kinesiology, wherever, they had to bring their knowledge to the program. They had to say, these are the communication forms, the genres, the approaches that we use in our field. They had to build those into the program, or I don't think it would have been successful. So the communication studios were a way for the colleges to own that. And in the beginning, the colleges made a big commitment to funding the studios, finding space, hiring the staff, and that was all good. So we kind of imagined a hub, a kind of small administrative hub, and then satellites where people would use the principles that we'd all agreed to in their own colleges. So that was the reason that we had communication studios. Well, it wasn't the only reason. A second reason is that students like to live in their own space. So we wanted to embed communication in their own home colleges.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I think it was the fact that somebody else was valuing technological or graphic communication, and then for someone, so to speak, from the outside, having an interest in that, it was. I think that's what kind of marks it in my memory. The thrill of finding somebody else interested in what we do and realizing that it could be a bigger part of what goes on across campus. One of the basic services that all the CxC studios provide is sort of, I don't want to say editing, but the assistance with writing. And something that Vincent does very well is focuses that more on the logic of what the writer is trying to say. Well, then what's interesting is that we've been able to find ways. I know Vincent and June in interior design worked on a paper on this topic together, but the students' efforts in the conceptual development of their projects, sort of the things that you teach them about writing a paper, the logic of their paper, really kind of also applies very directly to sort of the logic of their conceptual rationalizing or conceptual thinking early on in a project. So it's nice to find one that supports the other, or they might be learning about writing, but then they're able to maybe don't even realize it, but they bring that back into the studio, and kind of that focus on does this point lead to the next point, lead to the next point, is something that applies very directly to their conceptual work. So that's exciting to see. Then maybe to turn the question a little bit, or to another aspect of CxC, and something again that Vincent has really pushed, was tailoring this studio that we have here in art and design to the needs of the art and design students. And so, to get specifically back to your question, this idea that we can have these studios, multiple studios across campus, but they don't have to be the exact same studio or provide exactly the same services. And that's one of the things that I think really makes it, or has led to it being so successful and really staying in place over the years, was it had a little bit of flexibility to accommodate the needs of the students that use it.
It was a really awesome experience for me to be able to have that support behind me, and like I'd come up with a wacky idea and that it just get turned into something that was awesome and maybe brought down to earth a little bit, but nonetheless was awesome.
Universities are pretty much the same everywhere, but every university has something that makes it different and special. And for LSU, CxC is one of those things. This is a nationally recognized program, and we should be proud of what it's accomplished for our students, but what it also represents and the way it represents LSU in this country. And for that reason, it makes LSU special. The CI courses, the number of students enrolled is expanding every year. That's due to the leadership provided by CxC and the faculty committed to teaching CI courses. I think partly also the faculty development that's associated with preparing faculty to teach CI courses is tremendous. I think it's two things. One, they have the medallion, which is a nice recognition of it, but they carry with them their electronic portfolios that they can use to demonstrate their skills in working across modes of communication. They can present that as part of the portfolio for applying for jobs, and they can use those skills as they move into the workforce. Going in and already being highly capable and very skilled at communication is a big step for many college graduates, and it moves them quickly into their positions and gives them new opportunities and responsibilities that, just like in college, go beyond the job requirements, but are the things that really separate them from others.
One immense feeling of satisfaction and pride and exhaustion was after finishing the first CxC Faculty Summer Institute, because it was just such a huge undertaking since it was the first one, and it was just so different from what I think had ever been done on campus previously. And so to bring all those faculty from such disparate disciplines together and have such great conversations and such great learning take place, it just felt like an immense high. It was very, very cool. I think what always surprised me as a faculty member is that my students did not understand what a large role communication plays in every single discipline in every single day. And so I think that's why it's crucial to have something like CxC present, because it gives students those opportunities before they enter the professional workplace, gives them a chance to understand the value, gives them a chance to get comfortable with communication, and gives them the opportunity to see communication differently. I think what really worked for us was developing everything simultaneously. So implementing communication intensive criteria, developing the criteria for the distinguished communicators, and launching the first communication studios. We approached everything all at once because everything was needed all at once, and I think that really gave everyone involved an extra sense of engagement and purpose and excitement, and also provided all the tools that were needed to make CxC successful.
Well, it's been a pleasure being with CxC all this time and seeing the different phases and the different impacts. I think one of the biggest impacts for us, especially in engineering, is the communication side of the technical material. And that's huge. The employers are looking for the communication capabilities as well as the technical. And CxC has just really allowed us to expand in that communication side. The Summer Institute is a great opportunity for faculty. It's very good for the faculty. A lot of us have excellent training in research and really not the best training always with teaching. And so it gives us great opportunities to really think deeply about our teaching, come up with new techniques, learn some new techniques. I think the other thing I really like is that we meet other faculty and from across the campus. And we get to see things a little bit from a different perspective and then bring some of that back to where we are. For us in engineering and on the technical side in general, communication is critical. And the fact that that's now getting really deeply, I mean, now it's thousands and thousands of students and hundreds of courses. Now it's lots of people getting a much better appreciation of communication, of speaking, of the public face, as well as the private communication skills. And I think the employers are really loving it. I mean, I think the employers are saying, wow, these LSU graduates, these CxC graduates, the DCs especially, these people come in and they really do great things. They do the technical, but they also convey that to their customers and the rest of the company.
As an engineer and the president of LSU's College of Engineering, my curriculum is very hard. All our curriculum is very hard. All that knowledge is wasted if we don't know how to communicate it with clients, with business people, mostly with the interviews that we do to try and get jobs. To be a distinguished communicator and to have that extra level of communication is absolutely imperative to our future as engineers. CxC offers an opportunity for those who are in maybe STEM majors and don't get all these communication intensive classes when they're going through their college. It offers them a unique and invaluable opportunity to really start learning how to communicate in future jobs with anyone you need to, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. Your education will get you there, but to move up, you have to be a talker. You have to be communicating properly.
I think the biggest contribution CxC has made has been to excite students about the different ways of effective communication. Writing, graphics, computer-driven, all of these are effective tools of communication, and I think many students arrive on campus not knowing about the possibilities that each one has. The design disciplines, architecture, landscape architecture, interior design, are heavily oriented toward communication. And the effectiveness of a professional depends to a large degree on how effective their presentations are, graphic, oral, and so on. And so CxC offers reinforcement and help in those areas, and it really has benefited our students because they come away knowing that they have a skill that few others have. And in many other design curricula throughout the country, these programs don't exist. And so it's always good to have reinforcement and a studio where they can go and practice their oral presentations, their graphic presentations, their written presentations. And I think the success of our students is due in large part to how effective they communicate.
CxC is all about communication, and like communicating not just like written but also like spoken and visually and technologically, which is a huge thing now in society. And that's exactly what I do, right? My major is English, writing and culture, and I do rhetoric and composition. And everything that I do in my career is about teaching effective communication, right? And like writing well and speaking well and like making sure that your thoughts are heard well. And so CxC is my program to help me like practice that, but also practice it across different curriculums, because I think that's a problem too. As an English major, right, and as hopefully a professor one day, I want to be able to teach people across curriculums as well to speak effectively no matter what they do. So CxC is a way for me to practice that and also implement that. So my first 2 years I was at another university and I transferred here, and my first class, my professor was like, oh, you should do this like DCOM program, and I was like, what? Like, what is that? I've never heard of that before. I had no idea what I signed up for, and it was really cool because I'm not really good with technology. I know that's a huge thing now, and like through the DCOM program I get to practice that, but also I get to like show off, you know, my writing skills and my spoken skills. So, and then at the end we have this big website that we get to put together, and it showcases like everything that we've done in the last like 4 years. And like now that I'm doing graduate school applications, I love this little website I get to put in, because they're like, oh, like, do you have any extra things? It's like, oh yes, I do. I have this lovely little website that showcases everything that I've done, and it looks really nice.
Surely from the perspective of success, communication is really important. But I almost can get philosophical about communication too, because I feel like it's super critical to everything we do. And you know, for me, I think I was telling someone today that I'm about to start my 20th year at LSU, which is a shock. That's okay. But you know, I have papers and I have citations and I have publications, but I've been reflecting on the last 20 years, and the most important moments that I can come up with are all face-to-face interactions with students and staff and faculty, and that's interpersonal communication at its finest. And I think that is super meaningful. So I appreciate CxC and am a champion of CxC because it puts a framework and a way to understand more globally what communication is, and it really is what makes life worth living, in addition to, you know, being important for your profession. It's important personally too. So that's why I'm a champion of CxC. My whole focus area is community-based design, and I do a lot of playground design, and the true experts at play are children. So communicating with a child is not the same thing as communicating with a peer or a student or a colleague. You have to be very deliberate to try to get the most information and the best information out of the kids who are really the center of your design process, who are going to drive your creative spark, but also are the true experts. So how do you analyze them, what they're saying, what they're telling you? How do you analyze what they're not telling you? There's verbal, there's nonverbal. How do you engage kids? Because you're only going to get the best design if you have the best communication with the kids. And so I think, again, for me, it was an epiphany to think about communication on a much broader scale than just written and verbal. It's also, you know, if you're having a hard time talking to a little kid, just get out a piece of paper and ask them to start drawing play. And you're going to get all kinds of information. And so I think, you know, communication is the core of why I like to think that I'm somewhat successful at what I do. And it's because you have to be able to communicate, to get to the best information, which is then going to get you to the best design.
Really, in the scientific field, in the professional arena, there's really a lack of knowledge of how to communicate mathematics across the different disciplines. And in the class that I teach, that's one of the primary focuses, is how to communicate, how to write a logically coherent proof. When teaching students how to write mathematics, there are really three different areas that they should become better at. One of them is what I just mentioned, that is how to write a mathematically coherent proof. Apart from communicating to any other human beings, is it mathematically correct? How do you communicate logic? Okay. Number two is how do you write it in a way that actually appeals to human beings, that other mathematicians can read and feel like, yes, I understand what you're doing, where you're going, where it's coming from, why this or that part of the proof is important. You know, communicating the purposes of the different parts of the proof, not just putting them in their logically correct context, right? And then the third part is, how do I understand a proof well enough so that I can talk to a person in the hall, one of my peers in the hall, tell them how I proved a particular statement or came up with a particular theorem in a completely clear way that is non-technical, right? So that that person can take your explanation and say, okay, now I understand what you did and how to do it, and I can go write it down in a logically coherent way. And so those are the three areas within mathematics, and then, as I said, now how to communicate those ideas to people outside of mathematics.
Started in engineering, so people always think that engineers actually can't communicate, but that's a great differentiator when our students are competing with, you know, graduates of other schools like Texas A&M, Michigan, Ohio State, is that our students are excellent communicators when they graduate from engineering at LSU. I attribute a lot of that to CxC. But that impact has to go beyond just engineering, but it goes throughout all the disciplines within the university. And I also think that having something such as CxC or communication helps explore the overall interdisciplinary collaboration that we expect from our students here at LSU.
Being an engineer, it's a lot of group work, especially in industrial engineering. So getting that experience, so working in teams and like managing the projects, that's super beneficial in my field. And it helps give me that experience to relate with people. And with engineers, some people might perceive engineers to not be very personable or have the group dynamics as well as any other profession. So to practice that more in school is, gives me much more of an edge when I come out of school.
We do teach students how to integrate knowledge, how to learn new analytical skills, and also how to use new modern scientific instrumentation. We also focus on study of new paradigms and problems in physical chemistry. We learned that students do much better when they present results of their work in the format of scientific paper. And also when they learn how to do visualization and imaging, particularly dynamic visualization or animation and dynamic imaging. In addition to that, we also learned that they do better when they face directly modern scientific instruments. Of course, they did put much more work because they have to learn new skills, particularly in writing, which is sometimes the first time they do, and visualization, which is also new for them. So they spend more time, but on the other hand, most students are telling us that they benefit a lot from these two components, and they want to have them actually earlier in their studies. So they indicated that such approach is new for them, and it facilitates the understanding material much better than without these components. So the goals of our visualization and writing programs were in parallel with what are the goals of the CxC and CI. And we believe that it is a very good combination. We started that CxC accreditation, and it helps us to exchange a lot of ideas with the CxC. It also gave students additional credit for what they do.
I have a number of anecdotes that help explain why I value the experience of what's going on. One of them would be the Summer Institute. First, my own participation in it many years ago, where I learned a lot of things. My eyes were opened up. I was a new instructor coming from industry. I needed all the help I could get. So that was a germ, a seed to turn into something hopefully good for my students. Giving the chance to redeliver that to others and seeing the enthusiasm on their faces for finding a way to just help their students communicate better has also been a good experience for me. My own course, of course, is very important, and I see the students struggle with communications, as good as students as they are. And I tell them, I said, it was 10 years in industry before I felt even remotely comfortable in giving presentations or writing a technically competent paper that I felt would really pass muster. The thing I see is that as the program has grown, of course from a nationally recognized program, but also as it pervades the rest of the campus, the students are as a whole, not just engineers, coming out with a distinguishing mark, something that our graduates will have that will make them different from other graduates out there, make them more valuable to their potential employers, and help them find rewarding and engaging work. So CxC is like the bedrock process by which that happens. So we're just excited to have such a strong foundation of support to help us make that happen for our students.
So the development of the Distinguished Communicator Program was the first step, I think, in engaging students in the process. And the portfolios that we developed were wonderful, and they were news around the world as people were trying to figure out how students could have portfolios at the end of the 20th and early part of the 21st century.
Well, it's certainly impacted my post-grad life, and I would say for the better. Currently, I'm an engineering consultant for Exponent Failure Analysis Associates, and as a part of my job, clients come to us with these really tough technical problems and challenges, and they're a lot of fun to work on from an engineering perspective, but at the end of the day, we really need to communicate and distill these these solutions to these complex problems back to the client in a way that they can understand it. And in that way, CxC has been a tremendous asset in that regard, because as a part of the program, you get to practice speaking in front of people, writing technical reports that are understandable to a wide audience, and these skills are incredibly useful in my day-to-day life. And so I would say that it's had a great impact on my post-grad life, and I couldn't recommend it more.
We had some seed funding from an engineering alumnus to actually set the stage for trying to pilot something on campus. That led up to us hiring Dr. Lily Bridwell Bowles to come on campus, and we started a grassroots effort. What is already being done? Who are the champions already trying to do communication in the multiple modalities? We took the faculty and built it from the ground up. What does this program need to be? How can we best utilize it? What are the criteria? Because what we wanted to establish was something that would be unique and have a significant return on the investment and significant value added. And I think that's where we are, and that's why CxC has lasted to this day. It's not just lasted, it's actually thriving and growing. It's not just about writing papers. It's not just about composing presentation slides. It is about delivering the message in the best modality you can. So what's exciting for me is to see these kids graduate.
Happy 10-year anniversary, CxC. My name is David Mustaine, and I'm a 2008 mechanical engineering graduate and also a distinguished communicator. One of the things I liked most about the CI classes was the ability to engage with people outside of the engineering school and get tips on how to be an effective communicator. I was surprised to find when I joined the workforce how many of my peers didn't know some of the simple tips to giving a good technical presentation. Things like avoiding red text or yellow text that might blind you or give you a seizure. Or avoiding putting 400 words on a single PowerPoint slide. It's little changes like this that allow my team members now to give presentations that have an impact on people and can give them the information in a way that allows them to process it and make an important decision, as opposed to just putting them to sleep. So thanks a lot, CxC.
Well, because it trains teachers to work with students in new media. I mean, students, it's for me, especially in film. I mean, the Summer Institute is fantastic. We get to share ideas with each other. We get to hear ideas from other faculty, and again, I mean, I've been teaching here for 32 years, and I know how students respond, and students are responding a lot differently than they used to. I mean, social media has changed things, but film and video has changed things. They're very comfortable with that. In fact, more comfortable in some ways expressing themselves in video than they are in the written word. And CxC has made me comfortable working with them. It gives me the tools, really. I mean, I can use Studio 151. I can go back to resources from the Summer Institute and just see that it's all there. It allows me to do the sorts of things I want to do without being afraid of it, because I think we all have the sense that CxC at LSU is first rate. I mean, there's a real sense of professionalism there and lots of good resources, state-of-the-art things, and it's meant a lot to me because of that. I decided in my Southern Politics class, 4,000 level class, that instead of assigning a research paper, I would assign a 4 to 5 minute film, a 4 to 5 minute video for 50 students, and to do them individually, not to do them in groups. And because I thought a film is something they would actually do, some of them would get excited about, and some of them would allow their creativity to come out. They wouldn't go to websites overnight and write that term paper overnight, something they'd have to think through. They'd come talk to me, and it's worked enormously well. I could never have done that had I not said, you can go to Studio 151 and talk to the people that help you there, hear the two main software programs, but they've got your back technically.
The first Faculty Institute was an opportunity for me to bring in people that I knew around the country who were doing writing across the curriculum projects, or a couple of communication inspired ones, but mostly writing, to bring them in. And our faculty committee that had been working to try to invent the infrastructure for CxC had read a lot of the articles that these people had written and had lots of questions about a model for CxC. So that first Summer Institute was really great for that. They could bring people in who'd done something like this before and ask them all the difficult questions about how it worked. But that's not the core of a Summer Institute. That was just what had to happen the first year. So the next year we had a few people come in from the outside, and even fewer the next year. And what took over then were faculty success stories from right here at LSU.
The process of going through CxC and working with the people over at CxC has allowed me to really advance some of the projects that I do with students, and to keep them really relevant in today's changing society. And so we had a project that we've been struggling with for many, many years in our program. I took it over to CxC, spoke with them, I said, I need to make this more relevant. And I have just seen that project just changed dramatically. And not only are the students more engaged, because now it's technological, now it's more relevant in their lives, now we're reaching people in a way we never would have reached them before. My teaching as a result has become much more engaging. And so I think that is the value of CxC.
When I first heard about the program, I was told that there's an opportunity to go and work with some of the students in some other departments. I was in electrical engineering and there were others in mechanical engineering, and I was to go and work with them and build a boat. And I was wondering, why would I build a boat? So it really took me out of my comfort zone, and then the program actually made me comfortable in that other place where I was. And that was an amazing thing for me, because it really taught me how to get used to a new climate, and that has helped me so much in my professional career over the past few years. And it's been amazing, and I cannot thank the people enough for that. I cannot stress on how invaluable the education has been for me. And also something else is that one thing I've been consistently told over many years now, over the past 10 years, that I make good presentations. It was kind of odd for an engineer to keep hearing that one thing repeatedly, is that you make good presentations. And it was really good for me. This I completely owe to the program, because the CxC program has been amazing. They've taught me so many little things, little details about, looking at the audience, or if someone else is presenting, just keep your gaze down, or look at that person, or look at the audience or something. Or just simple things like don't breathe, don't breathe, breathe, and don't be nervous when you're presenting. And simple things, as I mentioned, like less is more, except for Les Miles. I'm done with him. I'm really tired of all the gaps and everything. But in any case, I digress. So a lot of those things that I learned have been really good. It has been a wonderful experience. I've been through different schools and different programs. I've been in the professional area. I've been through different trainings in that as well in my professional career. But this experience, that 1 year that I spent, 9 months, yeah, it has been amazing. I remember that fondly. I've really met a lot of good people. I've made very good friends over there. And I still have with me, on average I've been moving every year. I live somewhat of a nomadic life, but I still carry this medal that I was given. It says Distinguished Communicator. I think the name has changed a lot over the years. I keep that, and also I carry this this handwritten letter that I got from Dr. Lilly. I keep this with me. This is one of, I carry around a memory bag with me wherever I am, and these things are always there because I really treasure my time over there. And if you are involved in the program, you don't know how lucky you are until you will have a chance to reflect back, like I am doing right now. I congratulate everyone. I congratulate the program. I knew then that it would be a tremendous success. I wish I could be there in person and experience this. Thank you so much.